Welcome to The Next Moves, an intermediate series on biblical interpretation. Our focus is on how context is the king. We'll take a look at context in normal writing and then take a look at Scripture, Matthew chapter 7, to see how context guides us. We start with a blank sheet of paper and then add a sentence. At twilight, I saw bats. Not much here yet. Time of day, twilight. The storyteller saw something. Bats. But what the bats are, we really don't know. Maybe with twilight, the mammal flying bats. But we're not sure. Let's add a sentence. One flew erratically in the bug-filled air above a friend of mine. Okay, so we know that one of these is the mammal flying bat. We also know that a friend of his is involved in this scene. Let's keep adding. He swung another bat frantically at the other. Two bats. We have the flying bat, and now we have a baseball bat. Plural bats. So far, so good. A nearby umpire grinned and yelled, "Strike one, strike two, strike three, you're out!" This is very helpful. Now we know that there's an umpire. So this is some kind of formal game. Two teams probably. An umpire. It looks like a formal game. And he is calling this man out for swinging his bat at the bat. There was also an old bat. Another bat, not just two. There are three. But what is this bat? Just old. We really don't know. She sat in the stands a few yards away, applauding the ump. So the old bat is an elderly, difficult woman who likes that this boy was getting, called out for going after the bat with his bat. I usually have a pun or two come to mind in such a fertile situation, but I didn't even bat an eye. Throom, psh. Here we learn that the author likes puns and uses one even when he says he's not. In this writing, there are 4 usages of the word bat, 3 nouns and 1 verb, and taken as a whole, which definition is unmistakable. We know what the definitions are when we read this text in context. What I want you to see is no single sentence guarantees that. If you read just one sentence, you cannot be sure what the bat or bats is or are. You have to have context. Context is the king. With this in mind, let's turn to our scriptures and do the exact same thing. So let's begin again. A blank sheet of paper and 1 sentence. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. Okay. Without any other context, there are no conditions, no commentary, so there's never a time when judgment is good. You should never judge anybody, anywhere, at any time, or God is going to judge you. Single sentence. Let's add a sentence. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Okay. Context seems to be doubling down. Yes, don't do this, because your standard will be applied to you. Let's add another sentence. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? So, the context of this command, do not judge, is being given to a person who is actively looking for problems in other people, while at the same time avoiding bigger problems in their own life. And then Christ adds, how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? So, this person is looking for problems, they're avoiding their own problems, and they're coming to you and telling you, you have a problem. Then Jesus, he gets to it. You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Such brilliant teaching. Christ puts an end to all this crazy judgment, and he says to the judger, first, you change yourself. You apply all that insight into human character and righteousness and doing the right thing, and apply it to you. You get your own house in order. And this is such great teaching. The only person in the world you can change is you. Always start with you. But it doesn't end there. You get your life together so that you can help people with their specks. Now, think about a speck in the eye for a second. Do you know when you have something in your eye? Yes. A speck of sawdust in your eye is profoundly annoying. People who have specks in their eyes want to get them out. And if they see you with clear eyes, they're going to come to you and say, help. You don't need to go around looking for problems. You get your own life together, plenty of people will seek you out. That doesn't mean from time to time you need to take care of business in your family and deal with sin there or at your job or with your friends. But there are other texts about how to do that. This one's not the text for that situation. This text is for the context we just described. But we're not through yet. And then 2 sentences to finish. Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and then turn and tear you to pieces. Without the context we just described, these verses would be confusing, but they make complete sense. You don't go around looking to fix people. You don't want to be that guy. People who don't want to be fixed don't want you trying. And if you keep trying, bad things happen. Do you know the most clear indication of the Spirit's movement in an unbeliever's life? Is there an awareness that something is wrong with them? Without that, the gospel is meaningless. And people who don't have that, you cannot create that. Pray and be a witness. But that's all you can do. And for those of us who know, who have tried to enter in to some of those situations, people don't like it. And Christ says, don't do this. Wait for the right time. I love it when Christ in John 5 says to the man at the well, the invalid, do you want to get well? I've used that so many times. Do you want to get better? Do you want to change? And I wait to hear yes before I say another word. So if we go back to the first sentence, do not judge or you too will be judged, we find out now it's not a blanket statement. It's not about anybody judging anybody at any time. It's about a very specific kind of judgment. And a specific kind of judgment that needs to stop with very specific things to do. You can't get that in one sentence. People who use do not judge or you too will be judged as a blanket statement that all judgment is wrong do not understand the context. Context is the king. Today I want you to remember 3 things. First, read verses in context. If you hear a verse, find out where it's at, read it in the context. Second, listen to expositional Bible teaching and preaching. Listen to teaching where people go verse by verse through a book of the Bible, not just individual verses or topics. Listen to teaching that goes through contexts. And finally, as you and I read through our Bibles and make interpretations, the vast majority of the time we have to go for the teaching that fits the immediate context. There have to be very few times when we say the Bible seems to say this, but I don't think it does. Or the Bible seems to say this, but we're not going to do that. There may be some, we'll talk about those next week, but very, very, very few. And they have to do with how connection is queen. But the vast majority of the time, go with what the context seems to indicate. My name is Martin McCorkle. Thanks for joining me. God bless.